how many percentage of the Quran do we have in the first century of Islam? You see, Islamic awareness, they said about 96% of the Quran, but Haytham Sidqi says this is outdated. And he says we have 100% of the Quran within the first century multiple times. Yet, you show these Christians, you see all of these manuscripts, 100% of the Quran attested in the first century of Islam. These people who don't have nothing of the first century of the New Testament, they turn around, they say Ahruf, they say Qira'at. Hey, what does Ahruf of Qira'at has anything to do with the attestation of the Quran within the first century, akhi? Nothing. It really doesn't. Yet, they be saying that. They say, yes, Muslims be hiding it. You remember you was yesterday in the room? The Christian came up. Oh, Muslims are hiding it. The scholars, they don't tell them. They hide it. It takes these honest Orientalist missionaries to come to us to tell us all of this truth. Why? Because Muslim scholars are hiding it. Imam Azami, he says, although contemporary scholars outside of Islamic context have offered a range of imaginative interpretation to get the real Quran, those unfamiliar with the Islamic intellectual history must remember that every last variant written, listen, he says every last variant written comes out from the Islamic history itself. Nobody's hiding nothing. And inshallah, at the end of this stream, I will get to who is hiding and who is showing stuff. Wallahi, all the seminal text of Ulum al-Quran, all of it, written by traditional scholars, have a section in them about Ahruf. Hey, they be hiding, yet all of scholars who are talking about Ulum al-Quran, they are talking about Ahruf. Let us get to it. Ahruf al-Sab'a, which means 7 recitation mode. And you have Qira'at, which are canonical reading traditions. These two are not the same. This is very important for Muslims to know. Qira'at comes out of the pool of the Ahruf. And I'll get to them inshallah. You see, and these Ahruf are by design. What do I mean? According to the Sahih al-Bukhari, book 6, hadith number 514, you know it, akhi, and I'm sure every Muslim knows this, about the story about Hisham bin Hakim and Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him. He heard them recite the Surah Al-Furqan, if I'm not mistaken, differently than what he know. He grabbed him and he brought him back to the Prophet, peace and blessing be with him. Even Umar ibn Khattab, as soon as he hears a variant, he catches the guy, which means what? That the Muslims from the beginning were active to preserve the text as it was coming to the Prophet. So he brought Hashim to the Prophet and he told him, I heard them recite it this way. The Prophet told him, Hisham recited, and Hisham recited. What did the Prophet says? Hazaka unzilat. This is how it was revealed. And Omar recited it. And what did the Prophet said? Hazaka unzila. This is how it was revealed. Quran has been revealed to be recited in Sab'at Ahruf. So recite it whichever way it is easier for you. You see that? So the man who came with the Quran is telling us that the Quran is multiformic. Who told us that? The Prophet of Islam. Who is he? He was the one who came with the Quran, and he's telling us about the Quran. So the man who came with the Quran, who told us what the Quran is, who gave us the Quran, told us that the Quran is multiformic text. And by the way, the existence of Ahruf is ma'lum min ad-din. It is firmly established. It is in Bukhari, it is in Muslim, it is in Tirmidhi, it is in Nasa'i, it is in Musnad Imam Ahmad, it is in Muwatta Imam Malik. So it is ma'lum min ad-din. Okay? It is mutawatir lafzi, mass transmitted in its very wording. Imagine that. We have our manuscripts and we have the mutawatir of our Ahruf which our Prophet gave. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu in Sahih Bukhari mentions, Gabriel read the Quran to me in 1 Ahruf, and I, who, the Prophet of Islam, continued to ask him for increase until it reached Sab'a Ahruf. You see, this is by design. These Ahrufs are by design. Why? Because of theological reasons. Why? Because of practical reasons. Akhi, so understand this. The sources of this multiformic text has a prophetic origin. The sources of Ahruf has a prophetic origin. This is very important, and inshallah later on it will become relevant. Why am I keep repeating it? It has a prophetic provenance. This is the uniqueness of the Quran. Quran is immutable. Quran is a multiformic text. Now, what exactly are the Ahruf, akhi? I told you at the start, there is many misunderstanding amongst Muslims and misusing of the Christians. So let's go through them to see what are the Ahruf. You see, there are a couple of opinions about what are the Ahrufs. Imam al-Suyuti, in his work Al-Itqam fil Ulum al-Quran, he gave a couple of those. He was talking about Abu Ubaid Qasim al-Salam, who said these Ahrufs are 7 dialects of Arabic. Okay, 7 dialects of Arabic. But this opinion is not very strong, akhi. Another opinion is, if I'm not mistaken, Tabari had this opinion. He said the Ahruf are 7 recitation variants to any one word of the Quran. So any one word of the Quran can have 7 recitation variants. But the strongest opinion, which is mentioned by Abu Fadl al-Razi, Ibn Qutayba, Imam al-Jazari, by the way, this guy is one of the heavyweights in Qira'at. They say the Ahruf are 7 categories of recitational variants in the Quran. 7 categories, akhi. Now, for example, category 1, which is called the nominal variation. Nominal variation, okay? This is a gift for you, Ahmed. The Quran, chapter 1, verse 3. Could you recite it?
مالك يوم الدين.
Beautiful. And we have another Qira'at which says what, akhi?
مالك يوم الدين.
Sure. So one of them says Malik, the other one says Malik, right? One of them says king, one of them says the owner. And we know those two are not the same, right? Because an owner can be an owner, but it's not necessarily a king. Or a king could be a king, but necessarily an owner or something. So how do we know that the Prophet recited the both? How do we know that? These Christians say, yes, he forgot. This is your reasonable answer? He forgot? How is this reasonable? Okay, let's see if he actually said it or not. Okay? Now think about it. In the 8th year of a Meccan period, the Salah was given to us, right? Sure. And welke surah should we read obligatory in Salat, which we do, akhi? Which surah?
Surah Al-Fatiha, of course.
Right? So think about it. How many times did the Sahaba hear the Prophet recite the Al-Fatiha? Right? Let's see to it if they could forget it or not. Now, you see, Surah Fatiha is a must, as you said, right? In every prayer cycle. For 15 years, the Prophet led the prayers, reciting the Al-Fatiha in daily prayers. So think about it. 15 times 354 lunar calendar. We get 5,310 days. Right? 5,310 days. You Pakis are good with math, so you should get it with your head. Yeah. And 3 of these prayers, as you know, are audible. Fajr, Maghrib, and Isha are audible. Right? So at least 6 times a day.
Yes.
They heard them recite Al-Fatiha 6 times a day. How many days was it? 5,310 days times 6, akhi. The Sahaba at least heard them recite Surah Al-Fatiha 32,000 times.
At the very, yeah. Exactly.
This is not included the khutbah or the conversation about it. Nothing. At least. Akhi, tell me, have you mentioned your name in your life 32,000 times?
Put that out.
Yet they say he forgot. The sentence which is repeating for 32,000 times at least, they say he forgot one letter. Hey, And others, akhi, they tell you, see, these reciters, they didn't know what they should recite. One of them said Malik, the other one didn't know, he said Malik. They was loose and they went added, they say. Wallahi, they are very weird. But sure, but I just want to give you an example. How is this reasonable? Surah An-Nas.
قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس.
MashaAllah. Beautiful. What was the second verse?
ملك الناس.
Now, do we have any Qira'at variant, Ahruf variant about this word here?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. Off the top of
No,
my
we
head.
don't. So
No,
think
no.
about it. If the Qaris are loose and are going at it as they like, and they did that with Surah Al-Fatiha, which is so much repeated, why didn't they have the same problems with the same verse? In Arabic, it does make sense. Contextually, it does make sense. Theological, it does make sense. Yet, there is not one recitation variant there. Which means what, akhi? They didn't have any choice. You understand? They recited that way as it is. And Surah Al-Fatiha recited it both. That means the Prophet has recited this is as historical as Trump beating Kamala Harris a couple of days ago. And by the way, congratulations, Visa. So, akhi, the first category of Ahruf was nominal variation. Okay, nominal variation. The second one is inflectional variation. What do I mean? I told you at the start, this Ahruf has theological purpose and practical purpose. The first one was theological. Allah is the king and the owner of the day of judgment. It is theology. Now, practical. Surah 5, verse 6. It says, wipe your head and wash your feet. Arju lakum. Okay? Yet another Ahruf says, wipe your head and wipe your feet. Arju likum. Okay? And we can do both. How do we know we can do both? Because we see that in the Sunnah. It is backed up by the tradition. You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He could have revealed another verse to say that. Right? Another verse to say, oh, wipe your feet. But He didn't do that. He gave us the same verse with another form of it, which gives us an additional understanding and meaning to the same text. This is very elegant of the Quran. You see, the people who have linguistic understanding will get it. With respect to the belief, akhi, I was talking about theological. In Surah Al-Maryam, it is talking about Isa alayhi salam. And it says, so was the son of Mary. It is the word of the truth. Qawla. In another Ahruf, so was the son of Mary. He was the word of truth. Qalu. So it, at the other reading which I read, Qawla, it refers, akhi, to the previous words and previous verses. It refers to the previous Christology which is mentioned. That Jesus is a prophet, is a Nabi, he is a Abdullah, he is a servant of God, he is a Mubarak and not Mal'un, as Galatians says. So it says this Christology is the word of truth. Qawla. Yet another Ahruf says Qalu, which is talking about Jesus. This is an honorific title given to Jesus. Understand that, akhi? So previous verses is talking about Jesus alayhi salam being the truth, about which they had issues among them. So Quran is clearing that up. Another category is dialectical variation. This is another gift to you, akhi. Surah Al-Ikhlas, verse 4. Could you recite how you know it?
Sorry, dialectical. Sorry, repeat. What did you want me to recite?
Surah Al-Ikhlas, verse 4.
وَلَمْ يَقُلْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ.
Kufuwan Ahad. Yet we have another Ahruf which says Kufu an Ahad. And we have another Ahruf which said Kufu an Ahad. These are just dialectical variations. All of them mean the same. You see, you have to understand the Arab was the recipient of the Quran. This Quran is a multiformic text. This is the purpose of it. It should make it easy for them. They are giving it to the rest of the world, so they should get it as they have to. You understand, Akhi? So this is just dialectical variation. Another one is synonymic variations. 49 verse 6. It says, if anyone brings you news, investigate it. Fatabayyanu, investigate it. Other Ahruf says, if anybody brings you new, ascertain it. Fatatabbatu. One of them says fatabayyanu. One of them says fatatabbatu. Ascertain, investigate. Do you see any different at that? Exactly, these are the synonymal variations. Both are, by the way, in the Osmanic Rasam. Both. And the other one, Akhi, I don't want to make it too long. I want to get to the juicy stuff. The one of the category is a verbal variation or particular variation or syntactical. These are Ahruf. And I told you, Qira'at are not the same. Qira'ats are canonical readings. Now, how do we know that the Osmanic Rasam, which I was talking about, has this? How could we go through them? Which one is authorized and which one is not? There are conditions for an authorized recitation, Akhi. They cannot go willy-nilly at it and recite it as they like. The readings of the Qari must be in agreement with the Rasam of at least one of the Osmanic Rasam, Osmani codices, I mean. As you know, he wrote a couple of codices. We have the Medina codice, the Kufa codice.
Question. When you say Rasam, what do you mean?
And when I'm talking about the Osmanic Rasam, is the text which Osman Radiallahu Anhu and his committee and the Sahaba brought together. The skeleton text, which was copied and sent out in different provenance. This is what they call the Osmanic Rasam. You understand, Akhi?
Yep,
I can't go into it, Akhi, but it's going to get too long. Let me get to the juicy stuff.
As long as people understand the general definition, then we can go ahead.
Inshallah. So how do the Qari know? How should they recite it? Should they go willy-nilly at it? As many, by the way, these Orientalists claim that. Oh, and we get to that, inshallah. You see, the readings which they have must be in agreement with at least one of the Osmanic codices. So it is text-based, is not willy-nilly. The readings must be mass transmitted. It cannot be shad or maudu or isolated, nothing. It has to be mass transmitted. And here comes the Christian missionary, Ibn Mujahid. Hey, what is going on? Let me tell you. In the 4th century of Islam, an Iraqi scholar named Abu Bakr bin Mujahid, Akhi, in his book, Kitab al-Sab'a fi al-Qira'at, in year 936 CE, if I'm not mistaken, he chose 7 of the most mass transmitted Qira'at. Ibn Amir, Abu Amir, Ibn Kasir, Nafi, Hamza, Al-Kisai, and Asim. Okay? And these Christians say, you see, he made it. He came with it. This is his idea. Wallahi, very weird. Imam al-Suyuti, who is already quoting Ubay bin Salam, says all of these names existed already before Al-Mujahid. Here, this Christian missionary go with his fantasy and be telling us, oh, Ibn Mujahid made them up. No, but think about it, Akhi. For example, Ibn Amir, he was a student at Abu Darda. This is, by the way, from the book Tarikh al-Damashq from Ibn Asakir. He says he was a student at Abu Darda. Abu Darda had 1,600 students, and Ibn Amir was only one of them. This is what you call tawatur, Akhi, mass transmitted. Not only based on the manuscript, as I told you, multiple times, 100% of the Quran. Yet, all of these ahruf are mass translated. I told you, this is ma'loom min ad-din. This is no issue about it. Now, the qira'at and the ahrufs are not the same thing. I hope I mentioned that a couple of times for everybody to get it. These are not the same. The qira'at were drawn from the ahruf. Abu Amr Adani is not a scholar, Akhi. Came later on. He simplified Ibn Mujahid's work and he chose 2 popular students of each of the 7 of this Ahruf, Akhi. Okay? And he documented the readings. These are called the 2 Ravis. Understand it, Akhi? You have Qari, Ravis. For example, in Kufa, the Ravis were Shuba and Hafs. So you have 7 Ahruf akhi and 2 Ravis of all of them, which makes it 14. 14. 4 centuries later, after Ibn Mujahid, Imam al-Jazari, as I told you, is one of the big names in this. In his Kitab al-Nashir fi Qira'at, he says Yaqub al-Basri, Abu Jafar al-Madani, and Khalaf al-Baghdadi. These also are recognized and transmitted Qira'at or Qaris. Okay, so 3. So together you have 10 Qaris and 2 Ravis, which makes it 20. Okay, Akhi? Today, 95% of the Sunni world read Hafs and Asim, the 2 Ravis, and the 3% reads Warsh and Nafi. Okay? Now, Akhi, we went through Ahruf and we went to the Qira'at. Okay? Nobody is hiding nothing. As I told you, our scholars are going at it. They are telling us what categories, why are they there, who did they came with them, and how is the historical recipients of this. Right, Akhi? Is anybody hiding something? And all of them, Ahruf, who do they go back to?
Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Right? It has prophetic provenance, prophetic origin. Yeah? Beautiful. Now, today we're going to talk about biblical Qira'at. Hey, what do you mean? Ahmad, have you ever heard of biblical Qira'at?
I've never heard of it until literally like Semi mentioned it yesterday. So that's
Brothers and sisters in the chat, Christians and Muslims, have you ever heard about the Old Testament Qira'at?